the #1 Costa Rica real estate and investment podcast, bringing you experts from all over Costa Rica.
Hello and welcome to episode 253 of Costa Rica Real Estate and Investments with me, your host, Richard Bexon. Today we're going to be talking with Jose Maria Pacheco. He's a lawyer for Outer Legal Group here in Costa Rica and a bit of an expert when it comes to land designations, usage rights, their restrictions, and kind of just understanding that not all land is the same as well. We also chat about risks when investing in certain types of land and just kind of the questions that you should ask. So it's going to be an interesting podcast there. Remember, guys, if you're looking basically to buy real estate or invest here in Costa Rica, reach out to us. We do have buyers reps here in our office here that can help you. Again, we try and stay as impartial as possible. As I always say that the real estate Jedi mind tricks don't work on us, and we're always very upfront with you about everything anyway. But you can email us info@investing@costarica.com. We've also got some investments available here in Costa Rica, kind of some fractional ownerships as well as whole ownerships of properties in Manuel Antonio and Arenal, which are under construction at the moment and have reservations already into the future, which is absolutely nuts. And we haven't even finished them. We're delivering Manuel Antonio, 3 of those villas basically in the next 6 weeks. So a bit of a mad dash there. But yeah, if you're interested and want to know more, guys, just a chat. Again, there's no obligation. The link is in the description down below, or email us info@investing@costarica.com. But let's get straight into the podcast. Good afternoon, Jose. How are you doing?
Hi, Richard. How are you? I'm doing great.
Awesome. Well, I very much appreciate you taking time out of what I know is a very busy day to chat with us here in Costa Rica, kind of about, I suppose, land, risky, risk, what to buy, what things to ask, and what things to kind of really be aware of. So appreciate you learning your many, many years of knowledge with us.
No, it's on the contrary. Great to be on, and thanks for having me.
Not at all. Well, my first question I always love to ask, Jose, is, there's been some volatility in Western markets recently. Well, probably, it's what we're going on 6 months now, maybe even longer. And I think that's probably here to stay. I think the new normal is volatility. How has this impacted your level of work or what it is that you're doing?
Well, that's a very interesting question, Richard. It's something I've been thinking a lot about over the past few months because it speaks directly to what I'm doing down here, and there's no doubt that Western markets have been significantly more volatile during the course of this year, and I do agree with you that is here to stay, at least for the foreseeable future. And a lot of people have analyzed the cause of that. People who are much more proficient than me in economics, but I think the consensus is probably that this is driven by some degree of uncertainty with regards to the USA trade policy, and other factors sprinkled in here and there, like inflation and tech valuations, and obviously in April, when the stock markets took a dive for a few days, people got really nervous, and I think rightfully so. It was kind of like a blast that everybody got. It was like a slap in the face, and a lot of people reacted, and of course that resulted in an abrupt and negative reaction to what we're doing here in Costa Rica. But as the markets have stabilized a little bit, we're not in April was crazy. I've seen some of those transactions that people might have abandoned at that time come back and revive.
And if you were comparing, because people are always trying to get an idea of what's going on in the market here. If you were to just give a summary of what happened in the market and where we're at today, how would you summarize that?
Well, that's I would say first we had the tariffs thing, right? When that was announced, and I think that there was a huge dip in the stock market, and it was quickly all-time lows, and that affected a lot of investors. We have a lot of investors from the United States here, and many of them have their money in the stock market. So people get nervous, and when people get nervous, they slow down their investments. They
Yeah,
like
yeah.
to see what's going on, right? Um, I, I wouldn't say that the volatility that we've been experiencing over the year has been alarming by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, there's always some volatility. It's just somewhat more volatility.
Yeah.
Uh, and actually, from an investor perspective, a moderate fall in demand of real estate, which was has what has been occurring because of that volatility, is actually um, it's it creates opportunities for savvy investors that are coming here to take advantage of what's now becoming a buyer's market, right?
Yep.
So there's a lot of deals that are going to be going around because the market is a little slower and because people are a little more worried. And we're seeing some investors already taking advantage of this. And if you think about it, the U.S. stock market and the Costa Rican real estate market, there's some relation between both, but if you're looking to escape the volatility of the stock market in the US, one of the best ways to do that is by diversifying internationally. And
Yep.
Costa Rica just happens to be one of those options. And I think that, mid to long real estate has always been a mid to long term investment. So if you're liquid, it's actually a great time to buy right now. So,
Yeah, I agree.
um,
I
yeah.
agree. Yeah. No, I mean, I agree that like we are, I was speaking with a client this morning. We opened a bank account for them. And he was like, well, I want to transfer some funds out of the US down to Costa Rica, like just have cash down here, if that made sense. And I'm starting to hear that a little bit more. There's not huge amounts of faith in the banking system or the country. We're starting to see a little bit. So people definitely are diversifying. Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely a buyer's market, and there's a lot of opportunity out there at the moment as well. You just need to know what to look for and what to buy as well, because again, there's still a lot of landmines out there.
Yeah, well, you need to know who to talk to figure out what to buy and what to look for.
And that's never easy here as well, because again, real estate is very unregulated. I mean, investment advisors, it's not typical word that you hear in Costa Rica, or investment consultants. Like, usually it's just realtors or lawyers. Like that's the two kind of, but there's no one kind of in the middle, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm strictly in the lawyers
Yep.
bucket, but yeah, I agree. We have a lot of lawyers, a lot of realtors, but somebody that helps you navigate the investment landscape, that's not as common, and probably that's why you've been so successful at
Probably. And I have great people. So yeah, but I mean,
it.
look, let's just jump like kind of straight into land here, because I think we've got a sense of kind of what's going on in the market. It's a buyer's market. There's volatility, a lot of people diversifying. And I think we're seeing that the number of probably transactions has slowed down since post-pandemic, and that's normal. It's going to happen. The craziness is over. But when buying land in Costa Rica, because that's really what we're talking about here, land uses, main types of land, etc., what should people just understand about like what they can do on land?
So, I mean, going to the use of land, is probably the first thing I would say is it's critical to determine if there's any zoning regulation in place to figure out what you want to do. This can be somewhat straightforward if there's a zoning plan, and maybe not as much if there isn't. The Muni can issue a land use certificate that will validate if the land is capable of developing in the way that you want to do that. But a lot of times there is no zoning regulation, and the Muni will just issue like general boilerplate
Yep.
statements in their land uses, and that's when uh, it's very important to have uh, a professional, an attorney, or even sometimes a team
Yep.
of people with engineers and architects and attorneys that can help you define if you want to do what if you can do what you want to do. So also there are many factors in land use that aren't even considered in zoning. Like there's environmental factors that will be informed by the property that you're analyzing, if it has creeks or rivers, if it has, certain slopes, certain forest coverages. There's legal restrictions. There's topographical like restrictions and advantages of different properties. And there's even economic and political factors that can influence the way you can use land. And another thing that I think is interesting is uh, a lot of people consider permitted use but not intended use. And that's, I think, Richard, where somebody like you helps navigate people. I'm in the permitted use camp, and you're in the intended use camp a lot of
Yep.
the time. And what I mean by this is, when we talk about intended uses, you know, does um, does what I want to do with this land make sense? Does that make sense from an economic use?
Yep.
Is this the best use I can put it to?
Yeah. Yeah.
And when we talk about permitted use, can I legally and physically do what I want to do on this property? And surprisingly enough, many times people don't even consider intended use. They just go straight to permitted use and handle the intended use part somewhat intuitively. So,
I
yeah,
mean,
uh,
everything's great until you have to put in a $200,000 retaining wall.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Or you've got water infrastructure because you've got water rushing down your land or something, and yeah, so
Yeah, or you bought the property and then you figure out that you have to invest $85,000 in bringing electricity
correct.
uh and water infrastructure from the road to your desired building site, or all
Yep.
of these things that people sometimes don't even think about, and they just go out, buy a property. um and then it's like, whoops, what am I going to do now? And I think, part of that's part of the importance of engaging competent professionals to accompany you in the investment, because um, a lot of what I do every day is answer questions about permitted use of properties. Can I build this? What are the setbacks? Do I have environmental restrictions?
Yep.
There's a water well on the other property next door. Is that going to affect me? Can I get water? That's, to a good degree, that's the reason we do due diligence here. So, uh,
Well, and not everyone checks wells. I mean, I looked at buying a property a while back, and the whole thing was covered in by wells, neighboring wells, so I could build nothing on anywhere, man. It was in the hills of the mountains here, where the majority of the water for San Jose comes, from up here in Heredia. But like a lot of people won't even check that though.
Yeah, well, again, I think that's why it's important to get a good lawyer
I agree.
and get a good team, because, yeah, those are the surprises that you find afterwards. And there are a lot of good professionals here that can help you navigate the waters, but there's also some people that aren't as proficient. So
Yeah,
I think that if you surround yourself with a good team, you're halfway there, right?
I agree. Very important in Costa Rica. Very, very important. So,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, what are the different main types of land and kind of like land usage, and like what should people understand about each of them?
Okay. So types of land, right? I would say that I would qualify that in two big buckets, right? You have the title land,
Yep.
and then you have the maritime zone concessions.
Yep.
It's probably best to double click a little bit on the maritime zone concessions, because that's probably the most different of the people aren't used to that. So maritime zone concessions are a leasehold. So it's a lease that the government gives you. Um, and they're applicable for beachfront land. So basically, the 150-meter strip of beachfront land, starting 50 meters from the high tide, if
Yep.
that makes sense.
Yeah. So you take
Uh,
high tide and go 50 meters back.
yeah, that if you go to the high tide, then you go the first 50 meters,
Yep.
That's public. Everybody can enjoy that in Costa Rica.
Yep.
No private holding or ownership of that, right?
Yep.
Then you go the following 150 meters, that's owned by the government. And you can use it and exploit it subject to the leasehold, which is called the Maritime Zone Concession. And that it's subject to a lot of regulation, and it works in similar ways to property, but not exactly. And we can get into that if you want, but um, I think that that's kind of one bucket. And then you have the title land side, and that is, it's property. And there are two important variants, which is the condominium property, and that also works similarly to other places, and our agricultural parcels, which, both condominium and agricultural parcels have additional restrictions, to like legal restrictions, that are imposed by the specific property regime that they're under. And yeah, that's how I would qualify that. In terms of use,
Yep.
use is kind of separate, right? Use is a different thing because you can have condominiums that are put to commercial use, or you can have condominiums that are put to touristic or residential use, or an agricultural parcel isn't going to be intended for a commercial use.
Yeah.
So you have to evaluate it on a case by case basis.
And again, I mean, normally, size wise, agricultural parcels, I mean, they can be smaller, but typically they're 5,000 or 10,000 square meters.
Yeah.
They don't touch public road. They're usually accessed by an easement. Yeah. And then that has restrictions as well. Like if it's an old pub, you can build up to like 15%. If it's new, it's like 300 square meters plus, then a guest house. I don't think like caretaker's house. And then, yeah, like tool storage.
Well, you nailed it. You don't need a lawyer.
Oh, dude, I've been through the ringer. Don't worry, man. Don't worry. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm dealing with a condominium at the moment that is of agricultural parcels where you
Oh
have
my
to get
God.
your design approved. And I'm like, they have no like say over this, by the way. This is just like there's no legal standing between. There is no HOA of a agricultural, but it's not a condominium.
Well, Richard, it's very interesting. A lot of developments in Costa Rica have been structured as and they're functionally they look like condominiums. Like
Yep.
they have a gate, they
Yep.
even have common areas in the whole thing. And when you look into it, there are agricultural parcels, and they're handled through some sort of association,
Yep.
that and that has, I mean, that's pretty common. And it's not that you can't buy in those. Of course you can, and they work mostly. But yeah, that has all its whole different
Yeah.
avenue of issues and problems. And so, if you're new to this, like if you're just like an investor doing a first time investment or even a second or third investment, and you don't know all these things, it's really important to have somebody on board that can
I agree. I agree.
explain this. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, I'm getting permits at the moment for something that touches public road, and the municipality told me the other day that I needed to change its also like its use. Even though I have an uso suelo from the municipality saying what I can do on it because it's in Kepo, it's in Manuel Antonio, which has a plan regulador. They were like, I need the name Pasto to turn to construir to construction, and I'm like, really?
Oh
I'm
my
like,
God.
and then I went back and I was like, wait, 2 months ago you approved something that was exactly like this that had Pasto on it, and now you're
Yeah.
asking me to change it. And so legally it has to be changed. And anyway, you know how it goes, man. I just nod my head and go, yep, okay, how do we get past this hurdle?
Well, yeah, I think that that's the right attitude, Richard, because
Don't
there is
fight.
yeah, it's sometimes it's better just to see where the current takes you with the
That's it.
public institutions and not try to swim against it. Yeah.
I think that's general for Costa Rica is just go with the current. Don't swim against it. Because if you try and bring your Western world of doing business down here, it doesn't work. I was on the plane the other day chatting with someone and he was like, well, man, it must be great doing business down here. I'm like, you have no idea how tough it is, man. Like stay in the States. It's a huge market. You can leverage everything down here in Costa Rica. There's no easy way to make money.
It's not easy, but there are great opportunities here as
Of
well.
course. Yep.
And this is going back to some economics talk, not necessarily legal talk, but as with everything, the markets that are more established and more, I don't want to say safe because I think that Costa Rica is a very safe country to invest in, actually. But that are more seasoned will have won't have as great an upside in terms of return on investment usually than if you come down and invest in Costa Rica, where waters may be a little more complicated to navigate,
Yep.
but then you can make returns that just aren't
Yeah.
in the cards for
If you
somebody.
know what you're doing.
Absolutely.
I mean, there are a million ways to lose money here, and there are a few to make them.
Oh,
But yeah, you brought something up earlier, which is a condominium. A lot of the stuff which I've been seeing at the moment, and I'm going to throw the word Avianis out there just because I'm seeing a lot of development in Avianis like this, where they're kind of in the process. They quite haven't got, they haven't quite gone through the whole condominium process, and they're offering people of like, hey, if you invest the $500,000 now, we'll give you the land and then the house. But it's kind of pre any plan was being submitted, pre-Earth movement, how risky is that?
well, so I think that the risk level of that depends on the trust level that you have on the developers that are undertaking this.
Yep.
Sometimes getting in at the very early stages can be a great way to even, to maximize your investment even more because you get the best deals, right? But then if the developers that you're buying from are not reputable or are, unknowns or doing this for the first time, they could even be great people
Yep.
uh that just, with great intentions that just don't have the track record, then that's where the risk level starts increasing exponentially and quickly. And I think that that's why if you're making that kind of investment on a project that's not even started, looking at the track record is incredibly important. And a lot of guys have some spectacular websites that, with these beautiful renders that look and this amazing proposition of a project that look incredible, but it's not based on reality. And yeah,
Yeah.
that's important to look at.
Yeah. I mean, I always say to clients, I'm like, can you lose this money? If you lost this money, would it change your life? And if the answer is yes, I'd be like, don't take the risk. Like, it's just not worth it. Like, wait until everything's done and pay 20% more.
Yeah, of course. Or just go next door
Correct.
and buy the one that's already built where
Yep.
you can due diligence it and remodel it if you
Yep.
want.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree. I
it's
agree.
absolutely the more crucial that the money is to you, then the safer you should go with the investment. And that goes hand in hand with what you just asked about the risk.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, yeah.
What do you
So
what do you think's the most risky stuff to buy in Costa Rica?
So, I wouldn't say, Richard, that there's a more risky kind of property to buy if we're talking about land.
What gets your
For
spider
sure.
senses going? Like, where are you like, okay.
I mean, for sure, concessions are more complex. Uh, this can be handled with a good due diligence, but they're more complex to due diligence, and they're more complex to keep in compliance than just regular property. But yeah, I mean, I think that the riskiest investments are probably what you just said. The projects that are Greenland, nothing there, no infrastructure yet, not even permits, just these fantastic websites with promises of the most exclusive
Yep.
experience in the world. And yeah, a lot of those end up not getting built. And yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, this country's full of graveyards of developments, even some of the big guys.
Yeah. Absolutely,
know.
absolutely. So yeah, I don't think, I mean, with proper due diligence, I think it's very safe, but to buy property. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
you convinced me. That's the
yeah.
riskiest investment.
Oh, I mean, I just look at these all the time of like, hey, I've got this great deal here. And I'm like, well, and they told me if I don't buy this week, the price is going up. And I'm like, well, that's number one, like, red flag for me of like, come on, dude, don't give me the heavy, the sales, pitch. And then also is that like, what guarantees do you have? Because it's like, oh no, I'm investing into a corporation that owns the land. And I'm like, okay, well, you better do some due diligence on the land and make sure there's no liens against it. And that like you have a lien against it, not just your contract,
Hmm.
you know?
Well, also without a proven track record, like if it's somebody that's done this 100 times, then I think it's much safer. But those new developers
There's a lot
that,
of them.
yeah, there's a lot of them, and some of them have these, these value propositions that are very sexy. But yeah, you have to look at it on a case by case basis. But I think
Yeah, I
that
agree.
that's the riskiest one.
I agree. What areas of Costa Rica would you be buying land in and why? Was it?
Oh, uh, that's a good question. I think, you know, I think one of the great things of Costa Rica is that there's something for everybody,
Yep.
if you will. I mean, we have like the beach towns that are more comfort oriented, like Flamingo or Tamarindo, with like good fishing and restaurants and well equipped with services. And we have like in Peninsula also we have like the raw like nature kind of experience where many of those properties don't even have they're even not connected to the grid, and they're
Yep.
just like solar power, and it's very raw nature, and that's super beautiful. We have like the luxury and wellness communities like the Nosadas and Santa Teresa's where, you know, uh, it's like yoga and that kind of vibe. We have that like the high-end luxuries, Papagayo, the
But
Waldorf, the Ritz.
it
Uh,
sounds like Jose, you would probably buy in areas that are a little bit more established and not areas that are like a little bit of a punt, like a Marbella or something that's like kind of there, but it's kind of just trodden.
well, yeah, it depends. I mean, for me personally,
Yeah.
I love Playa Flamingo, so
Yep.
if I was gonna do something for myself, I would do it in Playa Flamingo. I think
What about as an investment?
yeah, I think the more well-established destinations are a lot safer as an investment because it's not like but then again, this is always a risk-reward ratio
True.
here.
True.
So if you go to the well-established ones, you still can make a great return. But if you find like what was the word you used? A punt?
Yeah, like we call it a punt's a bet,
Yeah.
basically. Like a diamond in the
Yeah.
rough, like is Avianas. Like Avianas looks like it's developing pretty well. I don't think it's a punt, but like that diamond is starting to form.
Yeah. I don't think Avellanos is a punt though right now
No, I don't think
because
so.
yeah, no. I think that that's getting developed but it's so close to all of the well-established things
Yeah.
already that, it's difficult to go wrong there. I think a punt might be like in the south. Uh
Like way south, like in
Yeah, like way south, like
yeah.
Peninsula de Rosa and things like that, where there might be opportunities right now. You can probably get a lot of cheap stuff that in 20 years is gonna be maybe worth loads of money.
But it's a
So
punt.
yeah,
Yeah, you just
yeah,
never, yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah. Well, Jose, this has been great having you here on the podcast and kind of sharing your knowledge. My last question, which I love to ask everyone, is if you inherited $500,000 and you had to invest it, so it's an investment, not a personal thing, into a business or real estate in Costa Rica, what would you invest it in and why?
Well, Rich, that's the easiest question you asked me in this podcast. I'd
Can't
invest it
tell
with
me to
you.
give it to, no, you can't. I was going to say the answer can't be give it to me, man.
Okay. Um, so $500,000. Um, I would, I would, I think I would buy an apartment that is, you can't really get a lot of beachfront for apartments for $500,000,
Yep.
and I would Airbnb it. I think that that's, you get a good steady income
Yep.
from the rentals, and then you do get the value of the land that's increasing over time. So I think it ends up being a good investment.
Where would you do it?
I would do it in the Flamingo area,
Okay. So
but
like Portrait, Flamingo, kind of that area.
I'm showing my colors with that area.
Hey, it's a good
I
area,
love it.
man. It's a good area. I
Yeah,
mean, I think highly, like, it's very expensive,
it is.
you
It
know,
is.
but there's a reason it's expensive. There's demand for it. It's demand and supply.
Yeah. But listen, like, for example, if I think about it, the only reason that I wouldn't, for example, buy a couple of lots and build on them and sell them, which would probably be more profitable than the Airbnb thing, is because it seems like that would be somewhat more time consuming.
It is. For a
Uh,
guy that builds, it is. And stressful, you know,
yeah.
hence the gray hair. Well, Jose, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here on the podcast and kind of sharing your knowledge. I think anyone that's interested in contacting Jose, I'll put all of his contact details in the description down below. But appreciate you taking time to chat on the podcast with me, buddy.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
See you later.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Solid podcast there from Jose, as you can see. I mean, again, I think it's just, you just need to understand what you're buying when you're buying land, of like its rights that you can do to use it, what's its zoning, is there a regulatory plan, how high that is. And land can get very complicated. And that's why I think it's always good, as he said there, to have a good team on it, even from a lawyer to even engineers and also topographers as well. I mean, just the I would say river and spring setbacks, etc., or either drilled wells or artisanal wells, they all have setbacks that can impact. They could be on other properties, but can actually impact your property. So it's pretty crazy. But yeah, I hope you enjoy that podcast there. I hope you're enjoying this podcast, guys. If you are, please subscribe, hit like. We very much appreciate all the support. If you'd like to let us cover a topic in the future, or have someone that you think would be good to be on the podcast, email us info@investingcostarica.com. I actually review all of the emails myself, guys. So when someone responds, it's typically me. But again, info@investingcostarica.com. But that's it for today. Have a great week, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
The #1 Costa Rica real estate and investment podcast, bringing you experts from all over Costa Rica.